Back on November 30th, 2018, Grace Millane, she was 21, checked into a hostel in central Auckland. While she was there, she matched on Tinder with a 26-year-old guy named Jesse Kempson. That same day, she was walking toward the Sky City complex and sent her family a picture of a Christmas tree outside the casino. Sadly, it would be the last time they ever heard from her. She and Kempson met up that night and went bar hopping around the CBD. They started at Uptown, ended up at this dark, cozy place called the Bluestone Room, and the camera showed them drinking, dancing, even kissing. They both looked like they were having a good time. Around 9:40 p.m. they left together and walked over to the City Life Hotel where Kempson was staying. The security cameras caught them in the elevator getting off on the 3rd floor. That's the last time anyone saw her. Not long after, something went horribly wrong in his room. The next morning, Kempson was captured on the hotel elevator alone. Between 8 and 10:40 a.m., he bought a big suitcase, some bleach-based cleaning stuff, and the cameras showed him totally calm, just strolling through stores like it was nothing. He also rented a car and picked up a carpet cleaning machine. The next afternoon, Kempson lined up another date. He headed over to Ponsonby, one of Auckland's trendy hangouts, to meet a different woman he'd matched with on Tinder. Later that day, December 2nd, he went back to his room. Around 9:26 p.m, he was seen loading a large suitcase onto a luggage cart and wheeling it down to his rental car. This was about 24 hours after anyone had last seen Grace alive. Early the next morning, December the 3rd, Kempson drove west along State Highway 16 into the Waitakere Ranges, a dense forested area 30 to 40 kilometres from downtown Auckland. On the way, he stopped in a rural town to buy a shovel. By late morning, he had parked along a quiet bend on Scenic Drive and dug a shallow grave in the bush. Inside that suitcase was Grace. The night before, after bringing her back to his hotel room, they had sex, and at some point Kempson strangled her. The strangulation was so violent that blood vessels in her face burst and her nose bled heavily. Faced with the horrifying reality that Grace was dead in his apartment, he began plotting how to hide her. Just after midnight, his phone and browser history showed him frantically searching for terms like rigor mortis, extra-large bags, carpet cleaner, and even Waitakere Ranges. After cramming her body into the suitcase, he buried it in the shallow grave, then went back to Auckland to dispose of blood-stained clothes and cleaning supplies. Or so he thought. As a final effort to avoid being caught, Kempson checked into other hotels and kept using dating apps like nothing had happened. But there was one problem. December 2nd, the day he buried her, was Grace's birthday. When her family didn't hear from her, they knew something was wrong. Alarmed, they contacted police. By December 5th, she was officially reported missing. Detectives immediately began retracing her last steps, reviewing CCTV footage and phone records. The cameras told the story clearly, Grace and Kempson leaving a bar together and heading into the City Life Hotel. The suspect's description matched Jesse Kempson, who police tracked down the next morning. Officers went to talk with him. One of the key breaks in the case came when investigators noticed Kempson had recently commented on one of Grace's Facebook photos, a strange, incriminating digital footprint linking him to her. On December 6th, police brought him in for an interview. He was polite and cooperative, but his story didn't quite add up. Kempson claimed he'd dropped Grace off at Sky City and then gone home alone. He even tossed in personal details about his family, hoping to sound more believable, but the detectives weren't buying it. At first, Kempson flat out denied that anything had happened to Grace. By then, police were already treating the case as a homicide, but across the country, people still clung to the hope that she might be found alive. After graduating from university in Essex, England, Grace set off on a year-long backpacking trip through South America, from Lima all the way down to Patagonia, before she flew to New Zealand in late 2018. By November 20th, she was in Auckland, sharing photos and updates with her family back home. Friends described her as generous, ambitious, quirky, the kind of person who could make strangers laugh within minutes of meeting them. Just 2 weeks into her New Zealand adventure, she was about to celebrate her 22nd birthday. She had no way of knowing that the date she went on that night would be her last, and that the man she was spending it with would kill her. Detectives kept the pressure on Kempson. On December 8th, during further questioning, the wall finally cracked. Faced with mounting evidence, he admitted that Grace was dead, though he tried to claim, unconvincingly, that he hadn't killed her. That night, he agreed to take police to where her body was. Late in the evening, Kempson led officers deep into the Waitakere Ranges. On a forested slope, they found her, buried under a thin layer of soil. By December 9th, police publicly confirmed that Grace was dead. They recovered the small suitcase her body had been placed in, along with her personal belongings. Forensic teams combed through the site, carefully documenting every detail. Jessie Kempson was formally charged with her murder. In November 2019, Jessie Kempson went on trial at the Auckland High Court. Still claiming he was innocent, he pleaded not guilty. His defense argued that Grace's death was a tragic accident during rough sex, painting her as a willing participant. The jury didn't buy it. They believed Kempson had deliberately strangled Grace during sex, applying so much pressure that her veins burst, and then calmly covering it up with calculated steps. Prosecutors pointed out that he showed no signs of panic while disposing of her body. 3 women who had also met Kempson on Tinder testified against him. They described how he liked bondage and choking, details the prosecution used to challenge his accident claim. The difference, they argued, was that Grace had not consented to any of it. They also reminded the jury that Kempson had lied about the last time he saw Grace and had actively misled police while hiding her body. Forensic experts were clear. The bruising on Grace's neck could only have been caused by forceful, sustained pressure, not by an accident. Court records also painted a picture of Kempson's background. His father had at times been violent, and his mother had largely rejected him, leaving him to be raised by his father and grandfather. He worked various jobs, bartender, labourer, but those who knew him described him as a habitual liar. A former flatmate called him troubled and a prolific liar, someone who spun elaborate stories about his wealth and family. He told people he owned a $900,000 BMW and a big house in Sydney. In reality, he was renting a small room in Auckland. Before Grace's murder, his criminal record was relatively minor: a drunk driving conviction and a few disorderly conduct charges. But after the trial, it came to light that Kempson had also committed violent sexual offences against other women. Those convictions came later and were separate from Grace's case. On November 22nd, 2019, the verdict came in. Jessie Kempson was found guilty of Grace Millane's murder. He was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum non-parole period of 17 years,